Ministry of Agriculture is working hard to address the challenges faced by Ghanaian farmer organic products. Speaking at its maiden engagement with the stakeholders was the Executive Chairman of Jospong Group of Company, Dr. Joseph Siaw Agyepong, established on the need for local producers of organic fertilizer to collaborate and work with sense of urgency to address the current problem faced by farmers on global fertilizer shortage.
That is the essence of bringing all organic fertilizers, suppliers, all manufacturers together for us to come as a united force to be able to deal with the issue that we are facing now. Some of them are liquid, some of them are organic compost, some of them are granules, and we all have to come together. So the essence of this meeting seriously is to bring all the ideas together, and as we meet as a body, to form an association of organic fertilizer association of Ghana, and then deliberate, discuss, enhance, bring the quality production. And see, once we are together, we stand very solid and strong to be able to bring ideas together. Someone might have an idea, someone might have some technology, to bring them together so that we can augment the supply need of Ministry of Agriculture. And then we recognize that we have to get some products out of the waste. And so municipal waste was turned into, we look at the composition of the waste in Ghana, and we saw that 62% of them are organics. And then we have to find a way of how to mine those composts out of that. So these are the characteristics of the waste that's depicted in Ghana. And we turn it into this in the year 2012. We started with 600 tons and getting more compost of it. These are some of the things that we are able to do, and we have been improving the quality, getting more development about it. So we set up the commercial in 2020. We set up the commercial treatment plant that's able to treat about 2,000 metric tons of waste.
According to the Deputy Executive Director of Center for Indigenous Knowledge of Organization Development, Mr. Daniel Banoka, pointed out that the Russia-Ukraine war has exposed the vulnerability in Ghana agriculture, and which is really contributing to high food prices across the country.
Food crisis situation. You could see from the data that we presented that nationwide there is food price inflation is really going up. And this is not something that is happening only in Ghana, it's happening within the West African sub-region. And so once there's a food price inflation and household level, if you look at it, the household food insecurity map, as I presented, you could see a lot of red spots. That indicates that a lot more people are going hungry, or either people are having food but not in the right proportion in terms of what food security talks about. It's about having food at the right time, having it in the right proportion of nutrition, and being able to pay for it. And currently, a lot of people are not able to afford 3 square meals a day, it's quite increasing in the worrying trend. So we are already in a situation of a food crisis, and it's not just Ghana, within the sub. What we're saying is that it might even going to get worse because there's a double impact. In fact, I would even say it's a triple impact of the situation. First of all, we have COVID, right? That have created a certain debt stress for our government. And government is still trying to recover from all the expenditure and all of those things from COVID-19. Now, secondly, what is impacting us again is a crisis in between Russia and Ukraine. And I asked the question, why should Ghana be hungry that 2 people decide to fight very far away from this country? It shouldn't be so. And so, in addition to the fact that we are not going to get the mineral fertilizer that we get from Russia coming into the country, we are also again not going to have access to wheat imports that we get from Russia. So we are going to have reduced production and also shortage in imports. So that is going to make our situation much more complex. And so if there's any time to take any action, it must be now. We sign, it is, and for me, it is the most basic of the problems that we have. The core of the problem is that we don't have a food policy. A food policy would tell us how we want to feed Ghanaians. And you know, people look at food just as a material thing. But I tell you, all of you, that if you put a meal on the table, the satisfaction people drive out of the meal is just not to fill the belly. Give the Akan person his kinky and let him eat his kinky and pepper. There's a spirit to it. That spiritual feeling is important. To eating your fufu and or the Nigerian with his eba, or the Dagati man with his TZ and stuff like that. So we need to look at how do we want to feed our children, the population. In areas, you've seen that there could even be food availability, but nutrition security is compromised. So people are just eating what? Junk. And that's what you can find in the US and other areas, that there's food available, but it is not affordable. And so people go for the cheapest, and you have all kind of diseases arising out of that. So we need, as a country, to decide that how do we want to feed Ghanaians in ways that can resolve the nutrition problems, in ways that can reduce the number of Ghanaians going to the hospital with a number of, food-related problems, in ways that can build child IQ development. Because nutrition is directly linked to the intelligence of children. And the research is showing that if you feed children very well, they learn very well. So if they have retarded this, and if you take Northern Ghana, for example, a lot of children have high rate of stunting and malnutrition. They cannot learn. So first, a food policy is going to say, as people of Ghana, we want to feed Ghanaians with Ghana-grown food. Then you look at the economics of it. What do we need to do? What are the inputs we need? What are the research that we need? How does all of this come together to produce the food that would feed Ghanaians in a way that is socially acceptable, that is economically viable for the Ghanaian businesses, but also environmentally safe for the Ghanaian people? Now, if you have trade policies that are contradicting your agriculture policy.
And that is why we have brought organic producers together today to deliberate on how are we able to bridge the gap. So that is just the brief of today's meeting. So you look at just one of the companies, which is the Just One group of companies, is looking at establishing about 16 integrated recycling and compost plants across the country. And each of them is going to produce about 400 metric tons, process 400 metric tons of waste a day. Okay, so cumulatively we are looking at over 2,000 metric tons a month that are produced. There are so many, about 18 of us are existing companies that produce. What we are trying to do is to build up our capacity to be able to produce more, to bridge the gap, in wake of waiting for all the other plans of the Just One Group, for example, to be established so that we can go highly commercial. But for now, what we are doing is, what is your capacity? We are assessing the capacities of the individual members, and we are looking at, if we are able to resource you, how are you going to scale up? And what percentage are you able to produce to bridge the gap? That is just what we are doing. So it's at the very basic stage. We have not even formalized association yet. We are just doing a gap audit, and once we are done, we will come back to you.
Also speaking at the event was the head of programs for Peasant Farmer Association, Mr. Charles Nyaba, said that there is need for collective effort in the sustainability of organic fertilizer for Ghanaian farmers.
So if we are able to produce our own fertilizer in country, it means all those factors will have been taken care of. So once that is done, cost of production is going to drop drastically. Now we cannot achieve this if those who are producing organic compost in the country stand alone, because they need to procure equipment, they need to get some subsidies from government. Recently, we heard that African Development Bank are now 1.3 billion for our agriculture sector. An individual fertilizer company cannot go there and access those credit. So if you have associations like Organic Fertilizer Company Association. It is the best group into producing our own mechanization centers, creating irrigation facility. If you're able to do that, I bet you very soon Ghana will start exporting food. The essence of this association is to ensure that we improve on the quality of the organic fertilizer. Once we are able to improve on the quality and we do some promotion, we do field schools, we do demonstration, and farmers begin to get their results. I'm very confident that most of farmers will leave the inorganic and start consuming the organic fertilizer for maize. And then to produce 1 acre of maize, you need 3,700 Ghana cedis. And with the 3,700 Ghana cedis, 2,100 Ghana cedis goes into fertilizer alone for the inorganic fertilizer. But if we are using the organic, you will spend less than 200 Ghana cedis on the organic. So it means that farmers are cutting down their cost of production by using organic fertilizer by 2,000 Ghana cedis. Okay? So once farmers begin to know that when they adopt the organic fertilizer, their cost of production will go down and their profit margins will go high, they will definitely use it. The only problem has to do with the beginning. There were some few organic fertilizer that we used in the past, and the results were not too good. So that is what was discouraging farmers from using. So the advice I gave to most of the organic companies who came here is that we don't need to disappoint the farmers. The farmer is saying that once you use the first product and it fails, the subsequent years you will never be able to convince that farmer to use it again. So once we are able to improve on the quality and the farmers use it and the outcome is good, in fact, the inorganic companies are likely to follow.